Ostia Antica was abandoned, but it was never forgotten. It's Mussolini that uncovers most of Ostia Antica. Before, there were papal excavations because it was papal property, and the site was always known. But it's Mussolini in the 20s and 30s that says, I want to uncover this. I want to have a Pompeii right in my own backyard, and that's Ostia. But the excavation techniques, we're interested in stratigraphic excavation, layer by layer of the occupation, the debris left behind by people. But he was not interested in that. He's interested in revealing Ostia. So he removes important later phase occupations of Ostia. What about medieval Ostia? What about late antique Ostia? He's not that interested in that. He's interested in the Ostia that reflects the grandeur of imperial Rome.
Si è trovato ancora imposto sulla sua base il gruppo marmoreo del dio in atto di uccidere il toro, il cui sangue era destinato a purificare il fedele. Il gruppo, come ci dice la firma scolpita sul collo del toro, è opera di un artista ateniese.
Conservation is the key to preserving the past. You don't just excavate, but you need to preserve what you've found. And that means, for example, in the site of Ostia, you put a modern cap of concrete on top of every single wall, because originally those walls were attached to ceilings and roofs, and water wasn't seeping in. But now they're exposed.
Nature certainly is also something that must be controlled, because grass and weeds and trees growing on walls are certainly damaging those walls.
So what you need to do is you need to remove the weeds. You need to remove the plant life that gets rooted on the tops of walls.
So what is the way of dealing with vegetation? You need people, you need specialized labor who every day go out and manually keep off the vegetation from invading, let's say, the structures.
Otherwise, vines will creep up the walls, plants will grow on top, and this ultimately is very destructive because these vines will break down the mortar, separate it from the bricks, and the wall will eventually fall down. So you remove this, you put a concrete cap on top of the wall, and that way it's going to be protected from the rain. And then on the side of the walls, you need to treat it as well. So if we come down here, we can see that there are huge gaping holes, and those holes must be filled in. So the brick over here is much more resistant and much more impervious to the elements. But the tuffo, this volcanic stone, which is what so much of ancient Rome and Ostia is made out of, it needs to be treated because it'll fall away. And then you've got a big gaping hole that ultimately can get larger and larger, and ultimately this wall can fall down.
What we're looking at here is typical capping in the sense that you're taking bricks that look exactly like the ancient Roman laterizi, and you're putting them on top of each other with the pozzolano mortar, and then you're throwing a cap on top of solid concrete with a little bit of tufa inside. And this protects the wall, the original part of the wall, and it's also giving the tourist or the average viewer an idea of what was originally in this location.
Taking ancient columns that are fragmentary and re-erecting them to their original height is artificial in one sense, but it does give the viewer a sense of the original grandeur. It does give you a sense of the original height of the large hall of this frigidarium.
The so-called anastylosis, for example, where you re-erect columns and so on. This is, let's say, something that is accepted. I mean, this type of reconstructions where nothing is invented but just put in place again.
So what we have here is a very impressive series of Cipollito marble column fragments that are reconstructed and re-erected to give it the full height with the white capital and the entablature above. It gives us a sense of the original scale of the hall.
As far as restoration is concerned, the restorers have gone in and added some new, more recent concrete. This is the pozzolano mortar. It's using the same materials as the ancient mortar, but slightly more purple, so the difference is visible. From the conservative standpoint, you can clearly see which mortar was the ancient mortar and which one is the addition.
What we say as a basic rule nowadays is maximum knowledge, minimal intervention. That's a bit our new philosophy.
They haven't done a lot of restoration work here because sometimes less is more. And by not going over the top with the restoration, you're able to see the different relationships and connections between the other walls in the area.
To maintain a site, it's very expensive. To restore a column or clean a statue, it's very, very expensive. So where's the money coming from? The money is public, the money is private. In Italy, it's predominantly public. It comes from the Ministry of Culture.
Which means that they have money from the state just for salaries, for the running costs and so on. And all the project money comes from tickets.
And what's been taking place in Ostia in recent years is there has been money coming into the site. There have been consolidation of frescoes and mosaics, and some of the great history of Ostia is being preserved. And what's needed now is more attention and more financial resources.
Not excavating, not creating an artificial archaeological site is the best way to preserve the ruins. But the thing is that we're interested in exploration. We are human beings. We love to discover.
Cultural heritage is for people, to be enjoyed by people, so I don't think it's right to preserve something and then keep it closed.
We're interested and fascinated with the past, and we will continue to explore. But then we have a responsibility to preserve.
Decay is also a natural process in a sense. I mean, like rocks of a mountain decay, also a constructed wall decays because it's natural phenomenon also. So certainly one can try to sort of slow down these processes, or try to reduce the causes of the decay.
Conservation is a big element of what Ostia is about today. We need to preserve its past. This is the best example of what ancient Rome looked like. So preserving Ostia is saving Rome.